Hey y'all, welcome back to ShareTreck. We got a very special video on this shortened holiday week. Happy Canada Day to Canadian friendos and happy Independence Day to all the Americans out there. Hope you're all doing well, but we got something special for you. We're looking at Illumina and Grail. So let's get started. Welcome back, my friendos. So, Illumina, genomics company, we're back at genomics, and we had quite a very, very volatile, very up and down year with Illumina, and Raj has covered a lot of it on the channel. So take a look at those videos if you haven't yet. But where is Illumina going forward? We have much more clarity on what's happening with Grail. But first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about Illumina and what I found in the recent Q1 earnings. First of all, just a little bit of a summary. Illumina's revenue is now down to about 1.08 billion, and we did see a revenue decline about 2%, but I also saw that the EPS, which is now negative 0.79, whereas before the prior year, diluted EPS was positive 0.02, and it going negative that far, there's got to be something going on with Illumina. But that's why we're doing this on the channel. The big announcement that we know is we finally have some clarity as to what's going on with Grail. And I'll get into that very, very soon. But first of all, I want to share something I picked up at the 10Q, the first quarter earnings. So Illumina gets most of its money from these things called, they classify it as two sort of revenue streams, which is sequencing and microarray. The difference is, in lamest terms, sequencing is kind of like reading a book letter by letter and understanding it in great detail, whereas microarray is kind of like looking through pages of the book and trying to see the main points. Most of this revenue is from that sequencing stream, but they got a significant sum from that microarray. Actually, if we take a look at it quarter over quarter, year over year, sequencing saw about a gain of 1% year over year and 2% quarter over quarter. However, microarrays fell 9% year over year and fell 4% quarter over quarter. So that makes you think. Revenue again down about 2% year over year, which isn't too big and isn't too crazy, especially considering the crazy big year we saw in Illumina. Now, if we were to take a look at this right here is the statement of cash flows. What's going on over here? We could right away see we had a pretty good year for cash. In fact, we went cash flow positive. We went down from this big negative of 42 and we're positive 41. That's really good. That's nice. I like to see more of that. However, I did take a look at the prior year and found 2023, 2022, pretty much everything post-pandemic was not very kind to Illumina. So again, we're comparing to almost like a black hole. We're comparing to a pit. So anything above that, pretty good. I really like that last number, by the way, and that I'd like to see improve as you go in the future. As I mentioned earlier, Illumina had a very last couple years. Raj covered a lot of the fiascos and kerfuffle on this channel. We saw crazy situations, almost like a sitcom, almost like a TV show where we saw Carl Icahn upset, the CEO D'Souza stepping down, lots of Grail turmoil. Post-pandemic, Illumina has been far from the Titan we saw it to before. However, the company does have pretty good cash from distance, thankfully. Now, Illumina, we're going to address the big elephant in the room. Illumina, it bought Grail back in 2020, and it cost about $8 billion of cash and stock. I went through the earnings call, and there was a very poignant, very great summary statement from the CEO Ankur Dhingra. This fellow said that Illumina had three big priorities. First of all, increasing the utilization of its instruments, improving its position in China. They actually hired a new head of China, of the whole Chinese region, Miss Jenny Zhang, and to resolve the Grail fiasco as soon as possible. Dhingra did outline that the plan to resolve Grail is going to cost about $1 billion because they need to make sure that Grail is going to be well capitalized, $1 billion, and they need to pay that with a cash for about 2.5 years. Now, why China? If this is kind of a summary of revenue by Illumina's revenue income, Europe right now represents about 26% of its total income, half of it coming from America, but only about 7.22 of its quarterly revenue coming from China. From what I gather, Illumina sees a big opportunity to capitalize on that Chinese market and increase that there further. China does have over 1 billion people, and seeing as they hired a new person, maybe there's something over here in China. But I am a little weary because of the trade war situation that we're seeing between China and the States, and a lot of overseas tension. So that is something which I think, although Illumina is bullish, I'm going to be a little considerate and wary of. On June 25th this year, we finally got a lot of clarity on Grail. The Grail spinoff completed, and Grail is now trading under a new ticker symbol GRAL. The way this kind of broken down was Illumina is going to keep 14.5% stake in Grail, and the remaining 85.5% is going to be distributed to current Illumina shareholders through fractional shares in the open market. So if you're an Illumina shareholder, you probably got a little bit of Grail, and the management kept a little bit more. Illumina is going to, on August 6th, give a big presentation and another strategic presentation about Grail and its new relationship with Illumina. So that's something we're going to look out for. The goal for Illumina is actually to make it self-sufficient, to make it its own company, to make it keep on going on its own. And if we are going, as I went through that statement by the CFO Ankur Dhingra, I kind of see a summary where Illumina's goal is to support Grail. They need to actually support it for 2.5 years, and each year it's going to cost about $1 billion. So that's going to put a big dent in its cash position. Next, it's going to it has a future funding obligation. Right now, Illumina borrowed $750 million to give to Grail, but it still needs to give a little bit more to get that 1 billion and an additional each and every year. And finally, it got that from a loan, but the rest from its balance sheet. If we are going to talk a little bit about some of the issues, that is, first of all, that $1 billion is going to have to spend each and every year. And this kind of suggests that we have a Grail burn rate where Grail is going to be burning a big hole in Illumina's balance sheet, Illumina's balance sheet for 2.5 years. And that is not going to be nice for the near future. So that turmoil, post-pandemic turmoil of Illumina, it's probably going to keep up. What I do kind of find a little bit positive is Illumina's balance sheet. So Illumina does have quite a bit of cash on its balance sheet. Actually, if you were to take a look at its cash, it's pretty well capitalized at the current moment, quarter over quarter. What I want to really highlight over here is right now its cash position, you can see a lot of negatives, but prior to the Grail fiasco, prior to that that post-pandemic turmoil, actually had not too bad of a cash position. We can see a lot of positive in this net income, cash from operating expenses. You can see some positive numbers. It wasn't until they took on this massive debt and this massive headwind for shareholders that Illumina started to suffer. Why is Illumina going to have to get rid of this? From what I gather is Illumina was presented with two options: either find a buyer for Grail, which they couldn't, or spin it off into its own company, which they had to do. And they are being fined by the Europeans. The Europeans make up about 26% of its quarterly revenue, and they can't just keep taking on those fines. So this was almost like they had their hands tied and their only option. But what do I see going forward with Illumina? I see that this company, although it's right now a money-losing company, it was doing pretty well prior to this Grail fiasco. And this Grail fiasco cost them billions and billions of dollars, and is going to cost them additional billions of dollars for at least another 2.5 years. However, after that, if this bet on China ends up being kind of positive, if this Grail is able to become self-sufficient, the company might have a good future. However, in the short term, I am still really, really weary. It's got a lot of really good heads out there. Folks like Carl Icahn believing in it. Carl Icahn has a pretty good track record. And this new head of China, Jenny Zhang, what I just researched a little bit about her, she has a big history in healthcare and a big history in China. She knows the Chinese market. So maybe that'll be a positive. Maybe this bet on China is going to be a positive, but this Illumina fiasco, I'm happy it's behind us. I'm happy we have clarity. And with clarity, stock market likes clarity. Stock market likes seeing that, hey, we finally got some answers and we can move forward. So am I thinking about investing into it? Not at the moment, but I do like that we finally have some answers. And then after 2.5 years, maybe we'll see Illumina return to the titan it once was. I am just going to finally share a little bit of some of the summaries we have here, which is we got a divestment plan for Illumina. They're going to, Illumina is going to have to support Grail with $1 billion for 2.5 years. And it's going to have to deal with this EU fine. However, that's probably going to be stuck in the courts for a long time because they're appealing and nothing goes pretty well in this hearing. Grail's annual cash burn is going to be almost $800 million. In my opinion, Illumina looks pretty good now, or much better now that we have clarity. Grail, however, we got to see a way for it to get some, get much more of that revenue and get some cash position. But during that presentation in August, or was it August 6th and August 13th, maybe we'll see a plan for Grail. Thank you all very much for listening to me. Hopefully you got a little bit out of this. Hopefully you found out more about what's happening with Grail. Ticker symbol GRAL. And maybe we could see a future for Illumina. May you all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time, I'll catch you soon. Bye.